Hey, how's it going? My name is Chris. It's been a while since I've done one of these, but today I am pulling up a Logic session, or as you'll see soon, multiple Logic sessions of my song Blossom in the Void. Alright, so it's been a long time, well over a year since I've actually looked at these sessions and these layers. So I'm just gonna like pull them up and we'll see what's there, and I'll tell you what I remember and I'll tell you what I don't remember, I guess. Looking back on this song, there's definitely, I would say, three main elements or core groups. Vocals for sure. I'm gonna start with vocals and we'll work our way back from there. Drums and percussion layers, and then synths. That's definitely the main three elements or foundations of the song. So I do remember this is the vocal session. I had a separate session for vocals, at least when writing and creating them. So I pulled that up first, and I definitely remember lots of experiments with analog tape, as you'll see, reversing, pitching, octave up, octave down, sampling, lots of layers, as you can see here in Logic. So this first group here, TAC Vox, that's me, that's my reel-to-reel tape machine over here. Half speed, I could see, I printed half speed, so I'm just gonna start playing stuff. Hopefully you can kind of get a feel for, maybe I can get a feel for what I was doing or thinking in that moment, and maybe not. And that's part of the fun. So, here we go. So that's a trip, very atmospheric. So what I did here is I must have recorded stuff to tape and then printed it half speed. Here's original stuff before processing, so you can hear that very low and like formant from it being half speed on tape. But then I just made that kind of a layer with processing. Solo these here, reversing here, you can tell. Processing, we've got amp, modelers, alter boy, putting formant up. Lots of low end, high pass filtering. Replica XT, cloud setting for just a massive reverb kind of in the background. So these green layers here of vocals, very experimental background atmosphere. The yellow here is going to be more your kind of quote unquote main vocals, standard vocals, even though I've also processed these very heavily, as you'll see. Okay, so these first two up here, a little more standard. Still formant pitching with a little alter boy. I've got some hall reverb. Very subtle filtering here. Okay. Right here is a reverb print, it looks like. So probably what I did there is I will print the fully wet reverb send of that. Well, actually, what I do, sometimes I'll reverse it, the audio file first, the vocal stem. I'll reverse it first, then print the fully wet reverb of that reversed file, if that makes sense. Then I'll reverse that back. So essentially it's reversing the reverse back to normal, but it's this reverb sound, if that makes sense. Maybe it doesn't. But that's what you're getting here. So it gives it this interesting artifacts because it's just printing, or it's just reversing the fully reverbed sound. And then I kind of line it up a little bit before the main vocal. And then also you hear the ducking, kind of like a, not sidechain per se, but more just like a rhythmic pulse effect. Okay. Just getting going here. Okay. Chipmunks. Chipmunk vocals in my ambient electronica. Of course, gotta have it. Octaves up, duplicated. Similar thing down here with a reverb print. That sounds like an octave down, blended with those octaves up. And then here, just layers of harmonies hitting specific words. Right? It's a little more standard vocals, although very verbed out, as you can hear, very layered. Lots of oohs and ahs with all the different stuff. Reversed, reverb, pitched up, pitched down. I remember kind of improvising here. Just hitting record on a bunch of different tracks. And just trying different things. So I've got longer oohs and ahs. Right? And then little vocal stabs, or whatever you want to call them, shorter bits. Very ethereal, very atmospheric, of course. And that was kind of like the big hit, the big part of the song, and then just bringing in this just flood of vocal layers. Then it kind of comes back down here for the end. I go back and highlight more of those half-speed vocals, trippy sounds here. You can hear it here. That pulsing layer. That's a big part of the outro as well. So that's kind of the vocal layers. I know there's a lot going on there, but yeah, it was just, that day was just, as you can see, just kind of a playground of experimenting with tape and reversing and reverb and reversing the reverb and re-reversing the yeah, all the things, pitching up, pitching down, and just playing around. And so this song I did actually send out to my friend Cody to mix it. So I didn't mix it. So you're seeing with this session and the next a little more raw feel to it, which is great. You know, I didn't send Cody all of these vocal layers individually, which I guess would probably be more standard practice for mixing, but I was just like, it's just so much. I'm already doing so much processing that's part of the sound, you know, pre-mixing before the mixing, that I just sent him groups, 3 or 4 vocal groups, and just was kind of like, good luck. And it worked out. I love what Cody did with it. So anyways, that's a lot of the vocals. Now I'm gonna pull up the other kind of main instrument writing session, if you will. So give me a second. Okay, so this is the other Logic session I have for Blossom in the Void. Up here, orange is drums, percussion. We'll dig into that, those layers. More drums here. The brown, the light brown. Those are all drums and percussion there. So that's a big part of it, a lot of layers. Synths here, kind of the blue. Purple, some keys here. And then my exported vocal groups here that we just kind of looked at, and then even more experiments with vocal chops and whatnot. Yeah, so you could see this song is a bit disorganized, jumping around. I probably didn't have like a master plan of, oh, I'm going to start in this session. And then it was just messing around and realizing, okay, I have a million vocal layers I want to do, just for probably for CPU processing and maybe for my brain to not have a bazillion tracks in one session. I had separate session for that, import, etc. So anyways, let's look at the drums. Starts off right away. Right. Kick layer here. Reverse kick. This is actually a clap sample, even though it's just kind of a noisy pulsing thing. But I just threw it into Logic Sampler, and then I've got delay on it, right? Reverb stick sound that I sampled in. A lot of just like throwing in Logic Sampler or batteries, and just experimenting with different drum percussion sounds. Snare zoom. So okay, I do remember this. This is my actual snare. Real drums. But I just remember recording with my Zoom recorder, just a really soft hit. That's what you're hearing. Throwing in Logic Sampler and just like playing around the different pitches here. On its own it sounds, and then gating it pretty tight. So on its own it sounds pretty lame, but within the context of the song, I just liked that kind of like tight but subtle snare drum sound as a layer behind the thicker drum beat. Right? Okay. Halfway through, the bigger drums come in here, which is like big reverby kicks and whatnot. Those percussive layers, snares. So I do kind of have like this main verby kick, I guess you could call it. It's more like a tom drum, it sounds like to me. Mallet type thing. But that essentially is the main kick for a while. This is essentially the main clap snare thing for a while. Behind all those other layers, of course. And then later on the song, here it builds up, and then I bring in extra layers of kick and snare right here. 1, 2, 3. I layer those claps with heavier snares. There's actually another even bigger snare that's not in the session that I added later on after hearing the first mix. So it's just like a constant back and forth of like, okay, what does this song need? Even getting it back from Cody, the first mix, and I was like, I'm sorry, I need another snare. Sorry, Cody. It was very gracious. Okay, even more trippy, like subverb percussive layers. Okay, put some delay on like wood blocks or something that I recorded on my own. So there's a lot going on, but that's sort of, it was a lot of just improvising, experimentation with sampling and drums, sampling and performing drums and percussion, I mean. Okay, what else? Keys. This opens the track. I remember this being one of the first sounds that kind of just simple but inspired me to kind of like explore, and I was just improvising on the chords here. This is just a Logic electric piano, like whirly sound. I'll play it dry here. That's it. And it's just 2 notes, pretty much. So simple. You know, it's basically a D to G to a B minor to F sharp minor type situation there. Okay, but then that I just sent it through Logic's 2-burner pedal board thing. I love the drive LFO thing they have here, and then Echo Boy delay. That gives it that kind of grit. MK2 pad. That's the Vermona Performer MK2. Definitely my most used synth on this album, on Origins as a whole. Love that synth, and I just bought it, so I was very into it at the moment. This is just ambience, like an old ambient song that I pitched down, filtered out, sent through a lot of reverb, just to give it a very background atmosphere. Yeah, so let's look at the 3 MK2 layers I have here. Just that thick analog pad. That synth is just so thick and warm. So 2 pads basically, and then this just fat kind of lead synth bass type thing, but it's pulsing too, or arpeggiator, just on one note though. So up to that point, it's just that ambience, the synths, the drums and the vocal layers. And like I said, build up here. Then we got this synth lead part. So basically 6 layers of lead synth here, just playing that simple part here. Prophet Rev 2 layers. I've got this Arturia Mini V, basically Minimoog emulator with the decapitator. Get that punish mode on, 100% wet. Gotta get that punish mode on. Analog Lab. What do we got here? Another chorusy Mini V. Maybe it's almost the same patch. It's just an octave up, obviously. Oh, piano. Blending. Piano with the synth line. Shout out to John Meyer, my buddy who does awesome samples. Noise staff. Ah, yes. Olafur Arnold's toolkit. Very subtle. A recording of my dad talking to my wife outside. Obviously very affected and whatnot, but just kind of in the background. I did that a lot on the album, just like recordings of my family, or you know, nature, or just walking around the room or whatever, just that don't necessarily make musical sense per se, but it just gives it this rawness, this life to it. And for me, kind of like a personal element, you know, if it's my family talking or whatever in the background. That's about it. Blossom in the Void. Getting weird with vocals, drums, synths. And it kind of just led to that. Alright, hey. Thanks for watching. See ya.